Hi to everyone. It's really a pleasure being among you. I am Tanzer Abazi. I am as I mentioned, I used to work for law enforcement agencies for a decade right now as a security engineer. I'm acting as a community builder on cybersecurity capacities, and we do such a similar, not similar because it's a huge event, and I want to congratulate this kind of event organizers that did a great job. But never mind, the best part of this panel are self-panelists. I want to invite Mr. Agim Kukaj, who is the head of ICT department at Ministry of Economy. The next panelist is Fatbardh Veseli. I think Fatbardh is here. We're going to switch to the next one, which is Kastriot Fetahaj. He's a lead security engineer working for Noexis. And in the meantime, we are waiting for Fatbardh Veseli. I've seen here, we met him, but I don't know, perhaps he's somewhere close to. So, as discussed, of course, that is a big challenge, digital transformation. It has lots of benefits, but in the meantime, it has lots of challenges. And I have the most adequate person, Mr. Kukaj, who was working for Ministry of Economy for years, I think since 2004, yeah? And he was heading lots of policy making related to digitalization, to ICT, and his ministry was responsible, and Agim was there for drafting those kind of stuff. So Agim, how do we stand with digital transformation as a government compared to Balkans and the region?
Thanks a lot, Tanzer. It's a pleasure to be part of Kosovo ICT as always. And we are together a long time, long years. So I am surprised about the number of people because it's not very attractive to listen to state bureaucrats. But anyhow, we will try to tell our story and address the panel and see how do we see this digital transformation, this disruption, this opportunity as well. And what can we do? Because we have also, as a government, limited resources. We cannot do everything, but we can do much in cooperation with the private sector. So, the best story from the Ministry of Economy is that, I'm old enough to say that after 1999, we had zero internet penetration. So it was just a couple of lines, landlines, 120 telephones, based on copper, and you had to dial up. Kosovo today is 100% penetration. And it's almost 70% of fiber to the home. It's a lot of coax, it's a lot of other technologies, but fiber is, taking over. So how we did it and how it was actually. So it was not easy, but we knew that we need to address the issue of transformation, of this digital disruption, what's going on. We had to be prepared for that, So how to be prepared without connectivity? So in 2012, we had the first digital agenda of Kosovo. In that digital agenda of Kosovo, we had three priorities. First priority was infrastructure, second was digital skills, and third one was cybersecurity. So all three priorities were forward-looking. So somehow we solved the issue till now of the infrastructure. So now we are working together with operators in the last village. So last village is already connected in August, so there is any house left without internet connectivity in Kosovo. So now we are working with the operators to connect with the fiber optic towers for mobile. So we are preparing the country for 5G and 6G tomorrow. So 5G and 6G will not be possible without fiber optics, without connectivity of towers, without connectivity of points, because that's the broadband. So I think that we are in the right way to address the issue. After that, after 2013-14, we were talking to the industry and to the stake, and with them, we saw that there is opportunity for IT industry in Kosovo. We did together IT strategy, but we discovered that we need a lot of experts, and we were not wrong, but we couldn't see, how many of them, and what are the best instruments to address that issue. So we now see open vacancies. Anyhow, we try to, based on that strategy, to write good project proposals, and with a short amount of money, and to cooperate with the EU and to get some funding to make a good curricula for training programs. And now we have in place 2 big training programs that are not creating seniors, they are creating juniors, but anyhow, things are somehow addressed in order to address the issue of digital disruption and the future demand and jobs. So these schemes are producing programmers mostly, but as it was said earlier, we are also, in these 300 hours of training, we have 50 hours of soft skills training. So digital, IT project management and communication skills, and how to write a kind of CV, and how to get a job, how to apply for that, are part of this curricula. So we do have feedback from these trainings that are supported by European Commission and by World Bank, and it's a lot of people who are getting employed very quickly, even though they are asking for high salary even from the first day. But anyhow, there is a still gap between this demand and supply. Anyhow, people are getting employed, it's a number of people is increasing that are interested, and this curricula is built based on the industry needs. And the companies are asked for that, and the ICT Association asks for that. So what are these main demand? Main demand is for cybersecurity, main demand is for with these data sciences. Main demand is still, but for, as Reza said before, also for non-IT jobs. You have all, professions that will, ask for IT skills, but not IT jobs per se. So these are some things that, we are currently working on. Now, we are in the process, as Valon yesterday said, from 100% penetration to 100% concentration. And I remember that, it was very well said. So what should be our next concentration? Where should be our focus? So we already started, and we established Kosovo Research Education Network. We connected all universities, and we will connect all schools in the next 5 years. But this Kosovo Research Education Network is cloud-based, and it will create a lot of opportunities for research. Because, as was said for AI will be one of the main subjects in the near future. We need to address the issue of artificial intelligence and data sciences. So these are new things that we are thinking on, and maybe in the next round I will talk more about plans. But these are the biggest successes of our government, but everything is done with the cooperation with the private sector. So I will leave cybersecurity to more to my colleagues, but they are bigger experts than I am. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kukaj. And yes, we already have Mr. Veseli in a panel. Veseli works as a security architect for Capgemini, yeah? It's a German-based company, and he is quite active on a lot of organizations and agencies in Europe regarding those kind of policies and technical background as well on these topics. So, Mr. Veseli, do you think that we as a Kosovo are ready to go digital, and what is the approach of German states and other Western Western countries on this part? As I know that your company is cloud-based, and do you as well, the second question is, do you think that even though our governments should go hybrid by hosting a couple of services on the cloud and the rest on-premise?
Well, thanks a lot, and sorry for my delay in attending the panel. I'm very honored to be here among very honored participants as well. To your question before, maybe I would like to make a little bit of reflection before I directly answer your question. As you said correctly, my work is based mostly not in Kosovo. So I would like to speak more about what I see in the market where I am more involved than in Kosovo. I think we have a lot of people here who know the Kosovo market much better than I do. But I would make a thesis here saying that probably we are not so much isolated from what is happening also in the rest of the world. We have our own differences, which we had the discussion before today between us. Somehow the topic of security is neglected by design. And this is something which we see not only in, I don't think this is a Kosovo problem, this is a worldwide problem, because if we think about IT in general, the main idea is to develop something new. But if we think a little bit more about what is actually security, we deal with security topics not only in IT. Everybody in our own house, when we leave, we should not forget to lock the house. We are careful how we deal with electricity. So there is a little bit awareness on the things that have to do with everyday life security, but I do not see this reflected in the IT world. I think this is lacking quite to a large extent. The topic of the discussion is digital transformation. I think I would also not like to speak on that, but at least we see there is no way out. Everything is becoming closer to the users. But I would like to give, perhaps, as a provocative thought that we should integrate security as we expect it from what we have in everyday life. Now, getting back to your question, regarding are we ready? To be honest, what I see in the market, because as a consultant in a German-speaking market, I see that in many cases, also many of the decision makers are partly informed about the decision to transform their operations. In many cases, we see a trend. But yesterday I came in Brussels, we had a meeting with the European Agency for National Information Security, and we had a discussion about data sharing. There is a lot of movement having on the European level, because obviously we had the discussion on AI previously, and we see there is a huge worldwide competition who is getting as an economy also. Kosovo is a small economy. But at least we see on an EU level there is a huge movement from a political level to drive data sharing. And first of all, I would say the awareness on security, similar to what I made the association at house, needs to be reflected also, first of all, at the decision-making level in every organization, including government, but also the same in the private sector. This would be the main point, and I think for many engineers, unfortunately, security and privacy is seen as a barrier. And many people think of car brakes as actually being there to stop the car. That's not true. Car brakes enable you to drive faster. So in this regard, I would like to think about security as something which would enable us to transform more sustainably, by design and not by disaster. I will shorten my part of the discussion here. I'm not sure what was the second question, but perhaps give a little bit space to Kastriot and we can get back.
Thank you for valuable information. Kastriot works as a lead, as I earlier presented, as a lead cybersecurity expert to Noexis, which is a fintech, digital-oriented company that offers services and products for the Switzerland market. So, Kastriot, perhaps the same questions could be related to you. On this, you can explain more about it, how your company is transforming this for such an important market in EU.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for having me here. It's true, actually, I work for a company that's, as a market, we have Switzerland and US market. And we do digital transformation for a lot of companies in different industries like fund engagements, fintech, health insurance, and even IoTs. And when we have a question, is the digitalization a way to go, my answer is no other way. We don't have any other way. So we have to do digitalization because this is a way to go. And do we need to do fast? Yes, we need to do very fast. But do we need to do wrong? No. We have to focus on what we do. Actually, Tanzer and me and Fatbardh, another committee of cybersecurity here in Kosovo, we engage a lot about the cybersecurity here in Kosovo. And recently we have seen many attacks and many holes in our government, but not only in government, but even in businesses, in banks and other businesses. And yeah, we have done some digitalization here, but with the digitalization comes a challenge too. And probably even here in Albania, we have make digitalization. Albania even have a rapid development in digitalization. But what we have seen recently, during digitalization, we have made a lot of mistakes. So we have seen recently attacks in Albania that mean they have digitalized most of the public services, but they have not implemented any good monitoring system that monitor this kind of systems. For example, if you refer to Microsoft report about the cyber attack in Albania, it's seen that the entry point of that attack was a SharePoint instance that was unupdated for 2 years. There was CSV on it. That was a known vulnerability on it for more than 2 years. This means Albania has lacked to implement monitoring systems, and probably they don't know the assets. I had a conversation with my colleagues who work with the government like days ago, and I asked, how many public services do we have? Do you know what is the answer? We have around 300. Around 300 is not the answer. If you work for the government and you're responsible to know about the asset, you will know the exact number. And if you know exact number, you have to have a monitoring system for all the assets. And yeah, if you have seen cyber attacks, most of them here was denial service attacks. And if you are a government and you have downtime 4 days with the denial service attacks, you probably have done something wrong, really wrong. Because if someone attack me and company with denial service, I will block it for 5 minutes because we have a monitoring systems and firewalls and IDS and all our other services that prevent and block this kind of attacks. Thank you for now.
Okay, thank you, Kastriot. And Mr. Kukaj mentioned earlier that you have some plans, the planning, how you are planning to go with this. As far as we know that Fatbardh Veseli is outsourcing his skills for the German market, the same is doing the Kastriot. How are we going to keep these talents to work and support our governments and the rest that potentially are outsourcing that? Is there any plan, government plans? Is there any education plans, increasing capacities, and how are we going to handle those stuff?
I mean, in the government, we are struggling actually to keep talent inside because people are coming and being trained, and they're having a lot of opportunities to go around and be, really skilled, become skilled. But they are after that leaving, and getting somebody else in the public administration, it's a long process. You have to go through the hell to hire somebody. Anyhow, this government is trying to create a kind of scheme to bring experts from diaspora, and they made a kind of registry for experts based on the demands from the departments. And it's not just the IT department, it's from most of these professional departments that are running energy, IT, mines, agriculture, financing. So there will be a scheme, and these experts will be really good paid. I'm not sure how this scheme is going to work, but it will be, opportunity for experts who want to help the country to overcome these obstacles and these challenges. And it is a challenge, really, it is a big challenge. Starting from writing a project proposal and after that implementing it, and not to mention how to maintain the systems. And here I see a kind of a big bottleneck, and we need to see how to maybe change a model of work inside the government. because everything was done in the government is project-based. You publish it, and you have a company who is implementing it, and they are sometimes maintaining it for a couple of years, and after that, everything remains in the hands of the public administration and people who are, not very well motivated or enough motivated to do the job. So I think that we have to think in the near future how to maybe have a kind of split of responsibilities, how to make these partnerships between public and private. Without this public-private partnership, even for the government systems, I don't see that we can, overcome the challenge. So doing that is not easy because we have a lot of laws and legislation and regulations that are, really strict. And in order to do that, you need to really change a lot of things, starting for public procurement, but that's a must. So keeping one cybersecurity expert, as these colleagues here are sitting, it's not easy in public administration. You have to be really motivated, or you have to have, a high professional ethics to stay in the government for a longer time. Anyhow, we cannot stop, and we have to move, and challenges are big, and we need to see maybe other opportunities, and the government is trying to bring these opportunities inside. So what this Ministry of Economy doing now is trying to formulate new digital agenda 2030, and in these directions we are trying to address the issues of of these technologies that are mentioned today and yesterday. AI and R&D and cybersecurity and the digitalization of businesses, non-IT businesses, education. These will be main themes of the new digital agenda. But what would be the instruments, and how to handle it? So we are now just started negotiation with the European Commission that Kosovo joined the Digital Euro program. There are 7.2 billion euros that will be, available also for IT companies of Kosovo. And very soon, when we conclude, and we do hope we will conclude this year these negotiations, we will sit down with the IT companies in Kosovo, with the association, and see to go through these steps. That's another opportunity, to catch up somehow. Because there is also the risk, we have a lot of developers, we are working a lot of services for abroad. We started to do something with some products based on stick data, so we need maybe to go further, because we are a smaller population. We need to look for niche markets, So this is another opportunity together with Horizon Europe that are not used in Kosovo enough. So we need to use that, and I'm sure that we are capable of doing that. So I see the bright future, even though there is a risk, and this risk will just open the eye of Kosovo. So let me just switch a bit to the cybersecurity from the government's perspective. We passed a law on the government, but it's general law, and we are preparing another law about network information security, transposing 2 directives into national legislation. And next year, in early next year, we will start to establish national, energy cert for energy sector. And after that, sector by sector, we will prioritize in order to address the issue of cybersecurity. But there are a lot of things about data and a lot of things about privacy that need to be addressed. So, we don't have time to talk about it. And another issue, since we have here people from municipality of Pristina, smart cities are in the agenda of the government, and see how can central government help municipalities to address the issues of smart cities, because municipalities, not all of them are struggling for people as well, but they need to offer, they need to have platforms, because things are not settled enough so well in the municipalities. So and there will be also the challenge. So all these themes and all these things are in the agenda of the government. So yeah, I will stop with that. So.
Okay, thank you so much. Just to understand that cybersecurity community is not against the digitalization. Of course, that we are so pro, but we want to make sure that we are doing good that part. And what happened in Albania is so impactful for those that do not understand. When you have the documents in paper, you have to be physically there to get those information. When you sort of offer digital services to the public, they are exposed on the internet, and some malicious actors can use them, and as it happened in Albania, and those kind of documents can affect, those kind of data can affect me and you and everybody. That's why we want to take care on that part, and whenever we go digital, we should count on cybersecurity countermeasures, we should count on pen testing, we should count on monitoring part, and are we ready on 3 elements that are educated enough people, did we have the adequate technology, and do we have the policies in place? So, Mr. Veseli, how the Germany is handling those kind of stuff? Do Germany have data leaks on that? We have just a few minutes, so give us some, mostly for the public services.
I think this problem, again, I think this problem is really not unique to the public sector. It is everywhere, and I totally agree with what you said. We know it also, I make another association with the cars. Whatever measure we do, the thieves will always find a way to go in. This is the same thing also in information security. This does not mean that we should not give our best. But, as you said, if we cannot detect, we will not be able to defend. So I think that's the first thing we should be good at, and we see this happening in Ukraine, where a very large warfare is happening on major players globally, and they're still able to defend their own infrastructure. This is a huge issue. And what is happening in Germany, in the beginning also in Germany there was a huge panic. Especially after the Ukraine start, we see a very huge, bigger attention, especially in the public sector, to information security. But as we talked earlier, you cannot add security at the end of the product life cycle. We have many DevOps projects happening. We need to add the sec between, DevSecOps. We need to integrate already before the CI/CD pipeline, actually, security in the minds and in the processes of every company, also in the public sector. I think this would be perhaps very general way because of time and the audience issue. I think I would not go deeper into that, but also in Germany there is also political reaction, but also business reaction, and it is currently seen also in the industry as threat number 1 to the existence of many businesses, of huge businesses.
Thank you. How many minutes do we have left? 10 minutes. Oh, okay. I thought we were going to finish.
So we can start now talking.
Okay, I think that Kastriot is well informed what happened in Kosovo recently. We have been targeted over lots institutions been targeted on cyber attacks, including ISPs also, and some private businesses and medias. So Kastriot, what happens in Albania and what happens in Kosovo are the same stuff, or it's quite different?
Actually, it's not the same stuff. They have common things. In Albania and Kosovo, we both face the denial of service attacks that are like a primitive attacks. That the role of it is to deny the service. Like when you go to Albania or Kosovo, you probably will not be able to access it. In Albania was a more advanced and more deep attack. I told it before, they find a vulnerable server that is hosting SharePoint, and from that they can gain internal access. And after from that server, they penetrate to a deeper network, and they manage to to get data from the mail servers and from other computers that probably are being part of an Active Directory that is the same thing even in a government of Kosovo is managed, how the endpoints are managed in the internal infrastructure. In Kosovo we have, based on what we have seen and about what the government has reported, it was just a denial of service attack, but the denial of service attack was huge. That's very important to know, because the government have made an announcement that during the denial of service attack they have problem with the internet in internal infrastructure. That's the issue. That's a big issue, because if I attack you a server that probably has information by Prime Minister, and with that attack, I block all the services, the internal services for the employees who work in the government. That's huge. And what we have seen lacking of the government managing it, because as Fatbardh told before, security should be included in all cycles of development process. And what we have done in government, they're a good infrastructure, good internal infrastructure. It's not all bad about the government of Kosovo, but the endpoints that external perimeter have been building on top of something that we had puzzle by puzzle. What we have seen from government, they have firewall. What is the gap in it? They have a firewall that is 1 gigabyte. And the attack was about more than 40 gigabytes per second. So 49 more, and you cannot block. Even if you put all the IPs in firewall that deny access to it, then you're not going to block. You're going to throttle the firewall. The CPU and RAM going to be 100%, and you cannot block it. So what we should do? We should implement cloud firewalls like Cloudflare. Cloudflare have almost infinite, because infinite doesn't exist in bandwidth, but they can block. They can block. They have blocked 1.8 terabytes per second against the GitHub. That was the biggest denial service attack. We should go. I want just to mention a case that we have during the years here in Kosovo. We have always problem during the elections with the system that show the voting, real-time counting of votings, and how we solved it. Maybe Agim can tell, and others what we did it. We moved it in the cloud to Azure, and after that we had better. Of course, it wasn't the best solution. We had some time even there, but it was a big step. Moving to cloud, implementing cloud services and cloud firewalls, it kind of blocked it. And of course, besides implementing infrastructure, government need to set a communication with all the parties. So actually what had happened here, how we block the denial service attacks. The denial service attacks have been blocked in ISP level, Internet Service Provider. So IPCO, Quitesa, or Motion, and others have blocked the IPs that they don't allow to hit, for example, Kosovo or police site or whatever. But the communication was very slow. We had more than 3 days downtime at the government Kosovo platform. Not all the time, but part by part. So 2 or 3 hours a day, after that, half a day, and so on. For that, I just want to give some advice what the government and other institutions like banks and other stuff should do to avoid and to protect the assets. One of the first steps, looking from the infrastructure, is to identify assets, to know what they have. So I'm 100% the government, and even Agim, that is a part of the government, probably will not know some of the systems they have, because not all of them are hosted in the government systems. Some of them are hosted in private servers of the companies who used to develop them. So first step is to identify all the assets, to put in the government systems, to put in the monitoring system, implement IDS and IPS. There are systems for identifying and preventing threats, and of course, last but not least, is advancing and training the personnel who work with that. Because you can have a Ferrari, but you will not win a race if you are not a good driver. So that's the case. Thank you.
Maybe I add just one more thing. I mean, there are 2 kinds of organizations and companies nowadays in the world. those that know that they have been hacked and those that don't know that they have been hacked. We see the traffic. There is I have not seen any company that has not been a target. But this is what I'm going back to my previous point. You have to be able to measure it. You have to be able to detect it. I mean, we see this, okay, DDoS attacks. Of course, it is very unfortunate for me as a citizen if I cannot go and download my certificate from the municipality office or whatever. But if we have some advanced threats, like we had in Albanian case, for example, the so-called persistent threats, which might be there for years, undetected, moving from one system to another. And we have to understand, perhaps it makes it easier for us if we make it tangible, if we touch it. But these systems contain very often sensitive and confidential information. State confidential information. Company confidential information. And this is even a huger problem and harm, I would say, to the identity, to the information infrastructure of the country. And this is something which is not an easy task. I know Mr. Kukaj has done a great work in governing, leading many different projects in the digitalization sector. And this is happening. And security is not easy. We need a strong governance structure to oversee everything that the country needs in order to build a more sustainable one. And we will have many attacks, but we should be able to know what do we do on the day when we detect the attack. Do we actually have some backup plan? Will the people be able to pass the border in a different method? Because everything digital is susceptible to attacks. And this is something we should probably also keep in mind. And of course, we can keep talking about all day. The main point is really awareness on every level of decision making, especially on the top decision making, because this is an issue for everybody. This is an issue for the Prime Minister. This is an issue for the President. Back in the 90s, Bill Clinton was claiming that economy is the main problem. We know with the recent precedents that cybersecurity is issue number one. And this is something I think we have to slowly understand, and perhaps also the attacks which were unfortunate recently would have a positive impact in raising awareness and helping us change along with healthy digital transformation.
Thank you, Fatbardh. Thank you to all the panelists. Is there any question from the audience for the panelists? Thank you. Okay, we're gonna finish right now. Thank you.